Narrator. In the heart of Dubai Marina, a city that builds monuments to absolute wealth, stands a 425-meter column of white concrete and gold-plated silence. A slender square shaft piercing the desert sky, it is a structure far more famous for its multi-million-dollar lawsuits than for its actual residents. Its glass facade reflects the sunset across half of downtown and the Palm Jumeirah. Yet look closer at night. Many of its floors are completely dark. The penthouse, when it sold, set a staggering record for the most expensive luxury condominium in the United Arab Emirates. 10 years later, that same facade is visibly cracking. The reclaimed land beneath it is shifting. This is the Marina Crown Jewel Tower, and what the developers quietly changed in the official sales prospectus in 2013, while units were still being aggressively marketed to global investors, is something the buyers were never told. The numbers are terrifying: $1.3 billion to construct, a projected sellout of $3.1 billion, 1,893 alleged defects uncovered on a single independent forensic survey, 2 active, high-stakes lawsuits tearing through the Dubai International Financial Center courts. More than 7 million pages of legal documents reviewed, 0.10 days of grueling depositions, a documented $160 million repair plan, prepared by independent structural engineers, a plan that has not even started, more than 20 catastrophic water leaks and major pipe bursts cited in the most recent legal complaint. So, why has the most expensive residential supertall in Dubai sat half-empty, plagued by cracking concrete and absentee billionaire owners, while no one has been paid to fix it? Why have municipal authorities never been formally notified that anything is structurally wrong with this iconic silhouette? And what did the developers, corporate lawyers, quietly scrub from their own sales documents the exact year construction began? This is the terrible engineering, the blistering heat expansion, and the hidden rot behind Dubai's empty, cracking billionaire tower. Narrator. To understand how a $1.3 billion supertall tower ends up with thousands of structural fractures and almost no permanent residents, you have to go back to an era of unbridled ambition, and the single catastrophic material choice that made everything else possible. In 2006, a prominent local developer purchased a massive prime plot right on the water in Dubai Marina for $440 million. The site sat dormant for 5 years during the global financial crunch as the development team struggled to secure heavy institutional financing. They eventually partnered with a major Los Angeles-based investment fund that injected the critical capital needed to revive the dream. Publicly, the developers described the planned tower as the absolute capstone of modern Gulf architecture. This structure was designed deliberately to defy physics. The lead architect gave it a pure, hyper-slender square footprint, just 28 meters on each side, with a staggering height-to-width ratio of 15:1. There would be no outer cladding, no traditional setbacks to deflect the brutal Arabian Gulf winds. The concrete carrying the building's vertical load would be the visible facade. In 2011, the fateful decision was made to use a specialty white Portland cement mix for that exposed structural concrete, a material engineered strictly for aesthetics under stress, which no concrete of that color had ever been asked to sustain at a height of 425 meters. By 2012, senior architects on the design team realized the immense risk. A lead project architect fired off an urgent email to the developers. The internal warning read, "They are going down a dangerous and slippery path that I believe will eventually lead to catastrophic failure and lawsuits to come." The warning was filed. The warning was ignored, the pores began. That was the original sin of the Marina Crown Jewel, according to the Condo Board's subsequent multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Structural mock-up tests conducted during the design phase proved that this specific white concrete mix would crack under the tower's extreme loads and intense thermal expansion. Internal engineering emails summarized the bitter trade-off in 3 simple words: color or cracks. The choice was binary. The developers allegedly chose color. Consequently, the structural failure began before the tower was even finished. The concrete supplier was still frantically experimenting with design mixes 3 months after the facade construction started. As the desert heat soared past 45 degrees Celsius, the concrete expanded rapidly, and microfractures emerged immediately. A chief structural engineer sent a frantic message to the developers, telling them to hold the pour immediately until they had a stable, validated concrete mix. The developers plowed forward anyway. They treated a massive structural crisis like a minor aesthetic delay, completely bound to a quarterly sales schedule. Engineers also begged them to apply an opaque, highly flexible elastomeric coating to seal the entire facade against the hypersaline marine air, moisture, and fine desert sand. The recommendation was flatly rejected. The developers feared it would alter the ultra-premium, stark white look and reduce its aesthetic appeal to global billionaires. Instead, they applied a cheap, clear sealant that engineers testified was utterly useless against Dubai's extreme cycle of intense heat, humidity, and coastal moisture. The cracks were open to the elements, and the water was already waiting to get in. Narrator: while the exterior concrete was fracturing under the weight of its own ambition, the interior of the tower was transforming into a multi-million-dollar pressure cooker. The billionaires who had paid up to $90 million for a slice of the Dubai sky were about to discover exactly what happens when structural engineering is sacrificed for a sales brochure. The first definitive signs of systemic failure didn't come from the cracks on the outside. It came from a terrifying sequence of infrastructure failures within the core. During a scorching summer week, the entire 425-meter tower had to be completely evacuated for 48 hours. The reason? A catastrophic arc flash explosion in the primary electrical vault. It was the second major electrical blowout at the tower in less than 3 years. The cause was a direct consequence of the building's hidden structural flaws. A maintenance worker, desperately attempting to locate and patch a severe water infiltration issue behind the walls, was drilling into the structural concrete core. Unbeknownst to him, the building's internal infrastructure layout deviated wildly from the master blueprints. He drilled directly into a high-voltage main line. The resulting arc flash explosion threw the worker backward several feet, severely damaging the building's primary power grid and forcing the immediate evacuation of every ultra-wealthy resident inside, panicked by the recurring explosions and persistent floods. The building's resident association commissioned their own independent, comprehensive forensic engineering study. The results sent shockwaves through the legal community, according to court filings and case analyses from local real estate litigation experts. A staggering 73% of the building's mechanical, plumbing, and electrical infrastructure did not conform to the developer's certified as-built drawings. Worse still, nearly a quarter of those non-conforming components presented immediate life safety hazards. The tower was actively fighting against itself. The forensic audit documented more than 20 major water leaks and burst pipes throughout the residential zones. The structural shifting and thermal movement caused the high-speed elevator shafts to warp slightly. During periods of high coastal winds off the Marina, an elevator stalled violently, trapping a high-profile resident inside for over an hour. Even worse was the acoustic nightmare. Because the rigid, unclad concrete structure lacked the flexibility to absorb wind sway and extreme thermal expansion, the building became a literal acoustic amplifier. Residents on the upper third of the tower reported terrifying, near-constant structural noise, creaking, banging, and a rhythmic metal clicking that made sleeping completely impossible. The ultimate luxury address had become an unlivable, vibrating echo chamber. Narrator: while the Marina Crown Jewels facade continued to fracture and its high-voltage wiring exploded behind premium drywall, the global elite who had poured their fortunes into these sky mansions were quietly abandoning ship by late 2024. Official property registries indicated that the tower was effectively sold out. On paper, it was a staggering commercial triumph. But in the luxury real estate market of Dubai, sold does not mean occupied. A devastating transactional analysis of secondary market data revealed a brutal truth. Out of 16 high-floor owners who desperately tried to flip or resell their units, 10 took staggering multi-million-dollar losses. The exact same floor plans that had once broken records as the most expensive residential real estate in the history of the Emirates had suddenly become the most heavily discounted. toxic assets on a price per square foot basis in the entire Gulf region, the tower entered the public imagination not as a trophy of success, but as a cautionary tale of absentee wealth. Market research tracking luxury residential vacancies across the city's super tall segment exposed a haunting pattern. Nearly half of the units in Dubai's tallest, most exclusive residential towers are completely unoccupied year-round. They are not homes. They are vertical bank accounts. Held through complex layers of foreign limited liability companies and offshore trusts, these properties serve as a quiet place to park capital. The owners are perpetually absentee. The lights are off. The curtains are drawn. The tower stands as a dark silhouette against the vibrant Marina skyline. The data trails down to the individual unit level. Global celebrities and international tech tycoons purchased massive 3- and 4-bedroom units in the tower's peak hype cycle, only to dump them less than 12 months later as the structural rumors spread through elite circles. One prominent institutional investor listed his palatial full-floor penthouse for $169 million. After 3 agonizing years on the market with 0 serious takers, he was forced to slash the asking price down to $105 million, a staggering $64 million hit. Another heavily compromised unit closed for a fraction of its original value after the structural forensic disclosures were made public in court. The building is not empty because of a lack of buyers, Raf. It is empty in the only sense that actually fall matters to a community. The global ultra-wealthy collected their premium real estate assets, secured their wealth shelters, and simply walked away. The lights do not come on. The high-end European appliances sit unused. The marble floors bear no footprints, and yet, the buyers who paid tens of millions of dollars for these units still did not realize that the legal safety net underneath them had already been quietly rewired before the first shovel ever touched the desert sand. Narrator. So, why hasn't anyone fixed the cracks? The engineering solution exists. Independent structural engineers estimated that a 3-year, $160 million comprehensive stabilization project could seal the fracturing facade, repair the spalling concrete, and fully protect the internal mechanical systems from catastrophic moisture damage. But the engineers issued a chilling warning. Without this immediate intervention, chunks of structural concrete will eventually shear off into the streets below. Glass window panels will loosen under wind load, and core mechanical systems will suffer permanent, irreversible failure. Water seeping into these deep fractures actively compromises a $1.3 billion asset. Let us do the math. The tower cost $1.3 billion to build. A rescue operation pushes the cost past $1.4 billion. With values plummeting, the market value of a repaired building carries a permanent structural stigma. The cost of the rescue simply exceeds its rescued value. The legal battle rages across 7 million pages of evidence, while the developers firmly deny all allegations, calling them baseless and defamatory. But the financial gridlock is not the worst part. The true scandal lies in the legal sleight of hand. The resident association's fraud lawsuits allege that the building's official offering documents were quietly revised in 2013 during active sales. The original contract guaranteed the density of the concrete will prevent water penetration. The revised version read, "The concrete and properly sealed windows have been designed to prevent water penetration." A calculated shift from a guarantee to a design hope, protecting the developers from the physical reality of a 425-meter tower built with the wrong concrete. Today, the tower stands as a permanent monument to a single word. A 425-meter reminder that the cheapest shortcut is always the most expensive in the end. On the ultra-luxury skyline, the most dangerous failures aren't poured into the foundation. They are edited into the contract.